Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AEW Dynamite review for September 8th, 2021. The show took place earlier in the night. The show is live from Cincinnati, Ohio. Just a hop, skip, and a jump away from me. So let's get right into it. Malachi Black versus Dustin Rhodes was the show starter.
Yes. Now, with this, the story behind it is that Malachi Black beat Cody. He beat Brock Anderson and Lee Johnson. Lee Johnson is the kind of the protege under Dustin right now. So that was kind of, and then Lee Johnson got beat by doing an old move that we've talked about where like Malachi brought in the chair and then was going to make Lee Johnson hit him with the chair, and then Malachi hit him with the spinning heel kick. One, two, three, and then Dustin wanted the match to defend Lee Johnson. Now, the first start of it, they kind of just went in with a simple headlock, the simple lockup, and then Dustin took him into the corner. They were kind of going back and forth. Then Dustin hit him with a nice backraker German suplex combo. Then Dustin threw Malachi out of the ring, stalked him for a bit, then gets countered to get backdrop suplexed onto the announce table, which is kind of a surprising spot at the start. Then Malachi starts working the leg inside the ring. Really not much happening after that. Malachi then goes outside the ring again. They go back outside to get Cody's boot. To taunt Dustin. Then Dustin counters him off of taunting him with the boot into a Canadian Destroyer for a false finish. Dustin then goes for a bulldog against an exposed turnbuckle that Malachi exposed early on in the match, but wasn't really made to be a big deal. And I'm sorry, hold on. And then Dustin Rhodes goes for the bulldog against the exposed turnbuckle and then gets reversed into a spinning heel kick, 1, 2, 3. That was pretty much the match. Wasn't a bad match, just really good opener, honestly. And then it put Dustin over. And the way it looks is that this is also setting up Cody Rhodes and Malachi Black too, because they teased that towards the end of the show.
See, so this whole thing, I mean, I think that the right now AEW has really good storytelling. My issue is that, as we'll see here with the next segment, they're doing a lot of the same storytelling with different people, and it bothers the hell out of me.
Okay, and see, it's funny, and it's funny you said it because there is a segment next, and like, look, I know Team Taz is probably liked by some people, but I'm not a big fan right now of what they're doing. And so basically, the next segment leads into CM Punk. CM Punk comes out to a really good pop out. Like he's been getting good pops the past couple of weeks, and he starts thinking by thinking Darby Allin and Sting and the fans. So like he's thinking everyone cutting a simple babyface promo, then drops a shout out to John Moxley for the main event, saying how hell of a match it's going to be and the whole 9 yards there. Turning the page. Then asks the crowd what's next for him, and then there's a mixed chance of everyone like Kenny Omega, Adam Cole. There's a mix of everybody. I'm sorry. Then Taz interrupts CM Punk. Then Taz talks about how if you actually want serious competition, then you shouldn't call anyone from Team Taz out. And then Brian Hobbs and Hook come out. I don't know the first name of Hook, but just call him Hook. Then Hook comes out along with Brian Hobbs, and then Brian Hobbs is laying, and Hook are just staring him down. And then CM Punk says, CM Punk basically says, if I even let you survive, we'll let you know, that kind of thing, just kind of taunting them and staring them down. And then from there, they walks up to the ramp, and then they're staring each other down again. And then it goes on to the next match, which is Brian Hobbs and then Dante Martin.
Really
Those
quick,
are the next two.
really quick,
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw something in. So
Go ahead.
the line that CM Punk used was, he says, "Listen, all four of you, beat me if you can, survive if I let you." The reason that that's important, ECW purist over here, that was Taz's thing. That was Taz's line.
See, didn't know that. It's a
Yeah,
fun
so
fact right there.
that's what Taz used to say.
I forgot to write that quote down. That's why I kind of
Yeah,
missed the quote.
no, but that's okay because I knew what you were saying. That's a pivotal part of, like, I read that and it got a pop out of me. Like, I thought it was cool. That
It was really cool.
I felt like that line was going to be passed on to somebody in Taz's group. I mean, CM Punk using it's kind of neat. But go ahead, you saw.
Well, then also I want to point out something from that promo too. Ricky Starks wasn't present. at all, which was kind of interesting. He wasn't present, which like because he included Ricky Starks' name, but he wasn't even out there, and Ricky Starks
Well,
wasn't on
now
the show at all.
I wonder too if they're trying to push this, like, is it going to be like CM Punk Darby versus, because we know the shit with the Pinnacle that's going to happen later in the show. We'll talk about in a bit, but like, what? So CM Punk's just going to take on every member of the. You see, it's the same story. It's the same. Everybody, AEW's storylines. It's all the same shit. One guy has to take on 18 people before he gets.
It's very similar. It's a babyface kind of comeback story, and it's not bad.
But they're not even doing it with that. They're doing it with heels too.
Right. I know. Like it's kind of all the same story in one sense. See, one thing that's going to be, and see, I wonder if they're just going to set. I wonder if they do some kind of like because Hook doesn't wrestle, as far as I know. Like I don't think Hook really wrestles, so I think they're just going to do Hobbs and Punk first, and then maybe Ricky. But Ricky Starks is still in a rivalry with Brian Cage, so I don't know how this is all going to tie in together. Because Brian Cage and him are going at it, I think, next week, but I'm not 100% sure. And then after the fact of that promo, Britt Baker comes on there to interrupt Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho says she broke Britt Baker into the business, and then goes on to say as to why she doesn't think Britt is the baddest bitch on the block, and then the whole 9 yards there, and then Britt comes back with the fucking with the comeback and says, "How about you run back to catering where you've been the last 3 years," and stuff like that. And like it was a decent little promo, just going back and forth. And then the next segment is Brian Hobbs and Dante Martin. Honestly, I wrote quite a bit down for this, but really there's not much to say. Dante Martin hit a nice bottom springboard, like bottom rope springboard. That was hard to say for a second, which was really, really a nice move, actually. It was kind of different. And then both men go outside, and then they're both attacking outside. And then Dante Martin almost goes through one of the barricades. And, I mean, that's really it. Like, Dante Martin went for a babyface comeback, but then it got stopped by a spine buster from Brian Hobbs, and that was really it. That was the match.
Jim Ross had a really, he had a line where he put Hobbs over. He said, "The sky is the limit for Powerhouse Hobbs because he's manhandling one of the hottest properties in all of AEW." I thought that was a really good line. I thought that was a good way to sort of get over Powerhouse Hobbs as a powerhouse within AEW. Up next, I know that you probably have a lot written down for this, and I have questions because I don't watch AEW. I'm just reading here. So American Top Team's Dan Lambert was in the Skybox with Scorpio Sky and All Ego Ethan Page. Match. Oh, was there not like a break or anything? This was after.
It was literally right at they for a second Hobbs is standing in the ring, and then they switch right up to Dan Lambert.
So for the Dan Lambert quote, I'm going to do the cornet voice because it's so fitting. "You may think that this company is the hottest thing going in the world of professional wrestling, and you may think you can keep playing these fans like a fiddle, but you will never be able to hide the truth for long. And the truth is that this company has two real men working for it, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. And if you have any tough guys out there, I suggest you send them out here." I genuinely don't understand. So, Dan Lambert's booking in TNA is very similar to the booking that he has in AEW. I get that. Is Dan Lambert, is American Top Team going to be an entity in AEW, do you think? Is that sort of where we're going?
I'll be honest, I don't think so. Because they had Jorge Masvidal and people like that there a couple weeks ago to a month ago, and they didn't even come into the ring while Dan Lambert was getting attacked by Lance Archer. So, and that's the thing, they didn't even try to incorporate American Top Team into even that storyline. I don't know if they're even going to do it at all, but it'd be interesting if they
I don't mean it like that, because I couldn't imagine Dana White is going to allow any of his fighters to go in and do some wrestling
you're
shit.
saying if America Top Team is going to become its own faction?
Yeah, I'm saying, is that going to become like a gimmick? Are they going to bring in like sort of like if you look at like he works for the other company, but like a Chad Gable could fit in that type of role. Like, here's American Top Team's best wrestler. Like,
well, and it's interesting you say that, not to cut you up, but like because Dan Lambert did mention how Scorpio Sky, I think this was on last week's promo. I could be wrong. I think that this might have been the same promo, but how Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page were both former mixed martial artists. Nothing really too on the pro level, but I know amateurly they both were. I know Ethan Page is definitely a wrestler, if I'm not mistaken, in high school. But
it's gonna be weird for me to see Scorpio Sky as a heel.
I know it is. I've been getting used to it because when I started watching again, I was used to seeing him on SCU. Which was Christopher Daniels, and
Christopher Daniels and Kaz,
and then when I started watching it, they broke that team up initially.
So up next, we have a backstage segment where Matt Hardy threatened to cut Orange Cassidy's hair. In another locker room, Orange Cassidy replied, "Whatever." It's funny to me that Orange Cassidy has like the same kind of he's like RVD in the early 2000s in WWE. Everything's a one-word answer. Cool, whatever, who cares?
Like
why?
You're charming and funny and witty.
you were charming and funny. Dare I say witty? But so I mean, I guess that's the whole thing with like this Matt Hardy gimmick going forward. I mean, how once again you need something for these guys who have names who aren't in the upper card. You need something for them to do. They might as well just kill each other for the next 8 years. And then MJF and Wardlow cut a promo on Brian Pillman.
It was great.
They cut a promo on Brian Pillman, Brian Pillman's sister, and Brian Pillman's daughter. And then Brian Pillman, seemingly has enough.
And he calls Brian Pillman's sister at one point Prego, which was that kind of pop out of me.
So, are they like? Do you think this is going to be finally going to be the Brian Pillman Jr. like singles push we've been waiting for since Dark Side of the Ring?
It could, because what's interesting is later on, it was a segment I kind of wrote down, but I'll bring it up now. Basically, like I forgot his partner's name, but like his partner in the Varsity Blondes, he was back there getting his eye like checked and stuff, and like then somebody I don't even know this team's name. I'll be completely honest. I should have found it out before coming on here, but like then the team comes back there, and like then they set up a singles match for Friday. So I think it might be he slowly will be getting a push, because then he's calling out MJF at the start of that segment too. So yeah, I think it is slowly going to be starting to put. I just wonder if they're going to break up Varsity Blondes and if Pillman Jr. will turn heel, or if it's going to be a subtle breakaway. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Up next, the AEW Dynamite debut of Ruby Soho. What'd you think of the match, Adam?
I think it was a decent, and I have my notes written down here. I'll just kind of read it off. It's kind of weirdly, but it just kind of put it together. Simply, like, it's a simple start. With Soho, while Soho gets thrown out of the ring, then gets thrown into the barricade. It gets back. They both get back into the ring. But before getting back into the ring, Hayter tears up a fan sign, which I thought was a pretty cool save. It could have been planted, but I thought it was a pretty cool little spot. Soho does a comeback, throws Hayter into the turnbuckle, then does 3 super kicks, which I thought was kind of a cool spot, because then she runs back to each turnbuckle kind of thing. Then they go back and forth, and Soho does. I don't know what the move's called, but I'm just gonna call it like a reverse enziguri for the win. Like it's kind of like she went under her arm like a twirl kind of thing, and then like did like a kick flip. I don't even know how to explain, but like then she like got that for the win. Then Britt Baker jumps in trying to curb stomp Soho onto the chair. They brought like a chair in, and then they were trying to curb stomp her onto it to get her out. But then Riho intervenes, which I have not seen her in a while. But then she's taken down really quick. Then before they can beat her up even more, Chris Statlander comes out to save them both. And then they're going to set up a 3-on-3 next week. I think it's next week, or it could be on Rampage. I forgot. But it wasn't a bad match, though. I'd probably give it like a B- kind of. It wasn't bad. It was definitely a good debut for Soho.
It seems to me like they're really pushing, this was a lady who didn't get the proper exposure in the WWE. You know, they had the Riot Squad and what have you, but Ruby was always the one that was, you know, underutilized.
Right.
And I think that, like, bringing her in and immediately showing her skill and how good she is, I mean, that's just a jab right at the WWE. Something that AEW loves doing, though, up next, a trios match. The Pinnacle's FTR, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, Shawn Spears with Tully Blanchard and Wardlow versus the Dark Order's Evil Uno, John Silver, and Stu Grayson, with Colt Cabana and Alan Angels.
Let me take it here because I have some notes written down. It's not a bad match. It started with tension with the Dark Order, like at the circus. That's what we talked about initially when I first got on, was how they had small tension at the start, and then John Silver tags in himself. I'm sorry, Stu Grayson was the first one to do it. I think he tagged in himself, and then John Silver does the same thing, and then John Silver actually looked pretty strong in this match too. It was kind of surprising. Like he looked really strong. There was a spot at one point where Evil Uno and Stu Grayson get taken down from the ropes by FTR while Shawn Spears in there, and then they trap John Silver in the ring, like they corner him, and then all of a sudden, like John Silver actually gets out of the situation, like he hits them all, and it was just a cool little spot. And then at the end, they do some kind of FTR and Shawn Spears do some kind of move, like where it's like FTR's finishing move, but they're both hitting and then they're tossing him up into Shawn Spears, and then it goes into a Death Valley Driver, and that was the finishing move. 1, 2, 3. Not much to write off about, but really the main story was the fact that the Dark Order is pretty much going to break. I mean, the Pinnacle still got over, and there's going to be a promo later on, but the Dark Order is pretty much breaking up. Well, and then two women that I don't know the names of, but the two women that
Anna
are
Jay
part of it
and
as well.
Tay Conti.
Yeah. Anna Jay and Tay Conti were they both came out there, and they were trying to kind of stop stop the arguments stuff. But really, it seemed like they're kind of done with the group as well, because then they kind of just backed off. So I mean, that's really the bigger story, is how they're pretty much all probably going to slowly start just breaking apart.
Yeah, it seemed almost out of character for Evil Uno to be like screaming at the other members. Like, I mean, I understand the storytelling of, like, he's sort of the defectum leader at this point. Like,
he did it the week before too. Not to cut you, he did it the week before where they did like a small promo backstage, and then he yelled he kind of just snapped at the group because they kind of named it, who named you like leader. Mm-hmm. Saying, like, you know, it was one, and then like he kind of snapped, and like it just it was one of those things where you can tell tensions are rising more by each week, and eventually it's going to hit a boiling point where Evil Uno is just going to go on his own, or maybe because Colt Cabana looks like he's at like a middle point, so he might go off and do his own thing too. So everyone just might go do a single, and then Stu Grayson and John Silver might go together as tag teams.
Yeah, they're doing it's good storytelling they're doing. I just hope that the payoff is worth it,
especially for everyone involved, because they're all talented dudes.
Yeah. So next is Tully Blanchard in the back talking about how Spears is going to face Darby Allin next week, and that should be a great match. But he says something that you took it one way, and the website has it written a completely different way. So the way that you took it is that he was saying manager to manager, you know, they're both going to be there. But the way that the website has is sort of like Tully Blanchard and Sting at some point are going to have a match. Now, we talked about this before we did the show, before we did any of these peaches. When Tully Blanchard got up on the second rope and did the pile driver spot, and it was crunched his old ankles. We talked about how we were concerned for him in ring, and then he had like he was sort of in a match, and he did some more things that were concerning. He can't it has to. If they do a match,
he jumped off the middle rope and his legs looked like they were about to snap like Psycho Sid, or
yeah,
like when he jumped off the middle rope,
like,
like it just looked bad.
like, do you think if they do Tully versus Sting, like it has to end quick via like a run in, like everybody has to run in, or it has to be like death drop 1 2 3.
I hope they just don't do it, but yeah, I would think you'd have to end it because Tully can't go for that long anymore. At least his knees don't look capable of doing that anymore.
So,
And I just want to point out something too. Before that promo, they showed a little recap of the Casino Battle Royal for the women, and they were showing just some eliminations. And actually, one thing they're teasing, as far as it looks like in the little vignette for it, was that Nyla Rose and Jade. What's her name? Jade Cargill would they're looking like they're going to face off, which actually might not be that bad of a match.
yeah, I mean that's two powerhouses. You add Camille from the NWA in there, and that's a fucking war.
Mm-hmm. And then they're also adding a Thunder Rosa underdog kind of thing because she eliminated quite a few people, but then then they show her coming up short, like literally at the last second against Soho, which wasn't obviously spread, but like it was just like it was an interesting because she looks like she might be on the rise here soon as well, which would be interesting because they seem like she's been underbooked so far. Go ahead.
Just you have the Tony Schiavone interview with the I guess we're supposed to call them the Elite. I don't exactly know if that's like what their official booking is in AEW. Is that what are they called, the Elite?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Just call them the Elite.
So basically, it was a lot of Don Callis talking. It was it was a big love fest for Adam Cole. Adam Cole talking about how he's happy to be this close to Britt Baker. Doing something really inside with the Tony Schiavone. I swear to God, if you look at her the wrong way, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you. Like a very. I actually
have that line written down. That was an amazing line by him.
Just because it's been like a thing that people talk about, like that. Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone are super close. Like they do the shows together, they're hugging and they have a good time. So
it calls him a nerd on the way out.
It's funny that like it's cool that they brought that full circle and have Adam Cole talking about it. He says All Elite is All Elite Wrestling. It's the greatest promotion in wrestling in the entire world. I know the Elite. I've been with them for 14 years. I've main evented, I've won champions, and I've shown that we're the next generation, which I thought was a good line. The Bucks are the best tag team. Omega, he's the fucking greatest. And then they talk about how it's unfair that all of these interruptions happen at the pay-per-view. And, yeah, so did I miss anything there?
No, not really on it. But the only thing that was, I guess, really missed was right at the end. I think you just brought this up, but I looked away for a second. Was that how, like, right at the end, they got into an altercation with, oh no, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Like got into the altercation with Bryan Danielson, and then he comes out, and then fucking Kenny Omega gets put in the yes slide. I don't know what they're calling his move yet, but I just called it the yes slide. That's what he used to call it. And then all of a sudden Jungle Boy and them come out as the Elite come in.
And Frankie Kazarian included.
Yeah.
So what's funny about this is, if you remember a couple weeks ago, you had asked me what I thought was going to happen, and this is basically the exact cast of characters minus Hangman Page that I had given you to be into this in this kind of angle. So
literally, just minus Hangman.
This is exactly what I laid out, in the exact same way I laid it out. So I'm happy to see that come to fruition. I'm really interested to see if they take it the same way that I would have taken it. Hypothetically, but it's main event time. So Peach, take it away. Tell us about the main event.
Well, so I kind of just forgot how to say it, but I'm just say Suzuki Suzuki, and Moxley. They had a really good main event. It started with these two just going toe to toe with forearms at the start. Then Suzuki gets up against the ropes, but counters Moxley into a hanging armbar, which I thought was a pretty cool spot. Just the way it kind of like turned into effect there. They go back and forth for a while again. Suzuki works the arm of Moxley. Then Moxley reverses to biting the forehead at a point once he gets back up, which I thought was a pretty cool spot. And then Suzuki does the same thing. Suzuki does it. He gets up and then does the forehead spot. And then they go back and forth again. But there was a lot of those spots where they just got up and they were throwing forearms back at each other and just kind of things like that. And then they go back and forth, but then Suzuki goes for a sleeper hold, then attempts a pile driver right after, but Moxley gets out, then attempts to knock Suzuki down with a clothesline. I'm sorry, with a flurry of clothesline, but Suzuki wouldn't go down at all. He wouldn't go down, and then and then Suzuki hits Moxley with a drop kick. Moxley comes back and then hits Suzuki with the paradigm shift, but instead, like he hits him with the paradigm shift over the shoulder, like flips him up, and then slams him because it would just take a lot for him to go down, and it was just really good psychology, very old school match, and that was the end of it. 1, 2, 3.